I've got some news. It's unprecedented and it's good. You're going to want to know about this. It's concerning the protection of children's bodily autonomy. New legislation happening right now in the 169th session of the state of New Hampshire, House of Representatives. New Hampshire is known as the live free or die state, and if these bills pass, many more children will be able to live free with healthy, natural, and normal intact bodies. Think back and imagine if your bodily autonomy was protected, how much better off you would be. By watching this video, you'll see how we can change the paradigm and elevate autonomy to a place where males finally get the protection they're entitled to, because we're poised to take away the financial incentives that are aimed at the bodily autonomy of male children caused by the barbaric practice of circumcision. This is something I've been talking about for the last 2 years, and now it's finally coming to fruition. In Atlanta during a speech, I said we need to make the government work for us, and now I'll show you what that looks like. But before I get to that, I want to discuss bodily autonomy in America. Because in America, they'll tell you you're born into freedom and democracy, that you have God-given rights enshrined by the Bill of Rights, and that you have agency, and that we're not beholden to centralized authoritarian systems, but for some reason, not when it comes to control over your body. Only in America will the healthcare systems, medical trade groups, and people in government agencies whip up hysteria about your potential to catch some horrendous disease if your body's left natural, normal, and intact, when none of this is true. They pretend they care about you, but what they really care about is having control over you, or to use you for their benefit. And in America, the hospital systems used you. They literally bled you as a means to increase their revenues. And in Orwellian fashion, they manipulate and pressure parents to choose circumcision under the lie that everyone would be better off if you were cut. They keep new parents fearful and anxious so they can control them, and you. Fear and crisis is always used to control the conduct and behavior of people. And when it comes to genital mutilation, it's always about creating fear of disease, enforcing social conformity, or placating some god's wrath. One of the chief instigators of this was the trade association called the American Academy of Pediatrics. Back in 2012, they issued a dishonest, slanted policy statement crafted to increase insurance payments for circumcision. They said it right there in the statement, insurance should pay. And now they thought they would release it and no one would challenge their authority, and that we wouldn't say anything. And if we did, we were nothing to be concerned about. We would go away. Well, we didn't. And after many protests, professional criticism, internal conflict, and a lawsuit, the policy is gone. They tried to extricate themselves from this debacle by letting it expire. The net effect is they made you stronger, they made us stronger, and they've empowered us. And we're more determined than ever to protect the bodily autonomy of baby boys. So the statement is gone, and we're still here. If what I'm saying resonates with you, you should subscribe to our channel, because we're the antidote to the legacy dishonest corporate media, all of whom amplify the AAP statement. We don't conceal the truth, or we don't worry about offending advertisers or the millions of cut men that aren't ready or unable to confront the difficult reality that they were harmed. So our channel is one of the few places you can get the truth on this issue. And we won't have some woman medical expert lecturing you on how much sensitivity your penis has, or what it feels like, or that circumcision has no impact on these things, because they don't have a penis and women are legally protected from circumcision. So let's get going. I can't wait to tell you what's going on in the live free or die state. Start the intro already. Okay, so in New Hampshire, I can now announce we have 2 bills pending in the legislature that the Health Quality Campaign and Intaction worked on and assisted state legislators with. The bills are HB 1683 and HB 1706. HB 1683 is entitled Coverage of Circumcision under the State Medicaid Plan, and HB 1706 is entitled Notice Required Prior to Circumcision Procedure. These bills are first in the history of this nation to increase the protection of a child's bodily autonomy from the barbaric practice of circumcision, and the bills will start to dismantle the circumcision obsession, which has its American origins reaching back to the late 1800s by such reprehensible figures like John Harvey Kellogg and Peter Remondino. But first, I want to give my thanks and praise for Representative Emily Phillips of the New Hampshire State Legislature for being a leader on this issue and introducing these bills. It's courageous legislators such as Representative Phillips that are leading the way to protect children's body autonomy. I also want to thank Tim Hammond from the General Autonomy Legal Defense and Education Fund, or GALDEF. Tim assisted with rewriting portions of these bills, and he provided citations where needed to back up the assertions made in the bills. Please support GALDEF at galdef.org, link in the description below. Okay, so let me tell you about these bills. HB 1683 would take away the financial incentives for Medicaid payments of infant circumcision unless it's needed for medical necessity, as per a list of tightly defined reasons. But otherwise, the state Medicaid plan would not reimburse healthcare providers for routine cosmetic infant circumcision. The bill states that circumcision of a newborn child under the age of 1 will only be paid if the infant has rare situations like congenital obstructive anomalies, spina bifida, or recurrent urinary tract infections. This protects babies from routine or cosmetic circumcision by taking away the financial incentives for the hospitals, while not depriving parents or patients in difficult situations of medically necessary health care should it be needed. HB 1683 would make New Hampshire the 18th state in this nation to do this. HB 1706 is related to having a real informed consent process for parents considering circumcision. It's based on our Circumcision Transparency Act, or CTA, which we've also been trying to get New York State to adopt. Parents really need better information. I know because I'm co-author of a soon-to-be-released journal article on how circumcision-informed consent is sorely lacking in most hospitals. Most healthcare systems use a generic fill-in-the-blank consent form, which relies on an oral discussion, typically biased, between the healthcare provider and the parent-patient to constitute informed consent, while giving hospitals boilerplate legal protections. And those conversations are usually brief and rushed for a proxy decision that will affect an individual, now a child, for the rest of his life. So the CTA takes aim at these flimsy, one-sided adhesive consent forms that predominate the healthcare industry. The bill's preamble starts with this statement of legislative intent: where circumcision of an otherwise healthy newborn or child is a medically unnecessary surgery. Where newborn circumcision is a painful, irreversible surgery with lifelong consequences. Where newborn circumcision is an imprecise surgery resulting in extreme degrees of tissue loss, depending on the healthcare provider's bias or preference. Where some parents have expressed regret over their decision to circumcise their newborn because they did not have complete or accurate information. Where the decision to circumcise a child is a proxy decision made by parents, and the subject of the circumcision has no part in the decision that directly impacts him. And where many circumcision sufferers express later distress and objections as teens or adults to the procedure having been forced on them as unconsenting children. Okay, so this leaves no doubt over the legislative intent, and a good enforceable law should have a well-reasoned, understandable basis. So to sum it up, this informs parents that circumcision is medically unnecessary. It warns parents that they may regret a circumcision decision. It also warns parents that their son may resent an irreversible decision being forced on him. So let's go over some of the major points of the Act. It says, no healthcare provider shall solicit any parent for a circumcision procedure, use pressure or coercion, suggest non-medical reasons as a benefit, or use undue influence to obtain the informed consent of parents. So what that means is that the hospital staff can't ask parents first if they want their son cut. Healthcare providers can't pressure them like, hurry up, do it now, the doctor is leaving. And they can't claim Non-medical reasons is a reason, like a father wants to look like his son. If there are two parents, both parents must consent. If one refuses, then the procedure can't happen. This supersedes custody or parenting agreements relating to health care. So this will head off situations like we had in Florida with the Hieronymus case, if there's a disagreement between the parents, or to prevent situations of revenge circumcisions, where one parent retaliates against another parent by cutting the child to exert control or dominance. Healthcare providers may not use a diagnosis of phimosis to order or solicit a circumcision if the condition is not an immediate or significant threat. And it goes on to say a non-retractable foreskin is a normal condition for a child. It says if parents do choose a circumcision, they will have to opt in to consent to donate their son's foreskin tissue. This will prevent hospitals from secretly using or selling taken foreskin tissue to the biotech companies. All consent forms that we've seen force consent of tissue donation with no provision to opt out. It says parents of intact sons shall be given an intact care guide with some approved samples, because we want intact children cared for properly, especially to avoid harmful forced retraction, and we definitely need more education here. Okay, then the bill goes on about specifics about the consent form. Here's what the consent form must say. Circumcision is a medically unnecessary cosmetic procedure, and this must be printed in bold 12-point type. It is the surgical removal of the foreskin from the penis. The foreskin comprises up to 50% of the skin of the penis. Circumcision is extremely painful and traumatic to children. It causes some infants to go into shock, and it can result in behavioral and neurological changes. Analgesia, if provided, doesn't fully prevent circumcision pain during and after the procedure. On the average adult male, the foreskin comprises about 15 square inches of very sexually sensitive tissue, which protects the head of the penis, enhances sexual pleasure, and facilitates intercourse. Circumcision is associated with known complications, including heavy bleeding, infection, disfigurement, scarring, meatalstenosis, skin bridges, loss of sexual function, poor cosmetic appearance, and in rare cases, death. Your son may want an intact penis, and a decision to have a circumcision denies him his bodily autonomy, which he may resent when he matures. No national medical association in the U.S. or the world recommends circumcision. All international medical associations outside of the U.S. actively discourage circumcision. A signature on this form acknowledges that the signer has been shown an infant circumstraint restraining board and a circumcision crushing clamp if used on the child, because this is what's going to be used if parents decide to cut their son. The non-treatment option involves no circumcision. This option entails no risks when parents are informed about proper intact care. These are the major points of the CTA bill. It goes on with some finer detail, which you can read about, link in the description below. I want to point out these bills are serious legislation, and they're getting traction already. They already have 10 bipartisan sponsors. Incidentally, in New Hampshire, there's another bill that was introduced about banning male genital mutilation, but it pertains to transgender procedures, not circumcision, and it's not our bill. It's kind of ironic. Getting back to the AAP, so in 2012, if you recall, they wanted to increase insurance payments for circumcision, but they should have heeded the old adage, every action has a reaction. Instead of increasing insurance payments, we became more empowered, and now we're turning the tables on them by blocking the financial incentives for baby dick cutting.
Yeah, don't cut baby dicks. It's real simple. When you say it that way, people go, yeah, that sounds gross. When you say, oh, circumcision, like, oh, what a wonderful ritual, and it's symbolic of your journey until, get the fuck out of here. You're cutting baby dicks.
So there you have it, folks. This is where real advocacy can take us, by lobbying and working in government relations. But we have to make things happen, not talk about them. Live free, live intact, and fight back. But now you have a decision to make. You have the power to make a choice between stopping circumcision or allowing it to continue. I can help you get the justice you seek. Together, we can redirect the harm that we've had to endure and channel that energy for a greater purpose by stopping the barbaric practice of circumcision so we can all heal ourselves. Imagine if your bodily autonomy had some protection by laws such as the ones that may pass in New Hampshire. If your parents had better information, think about how different your life might be with a natural, normal, healthy, intact body. Let's give that gift to others. Support the health equality campaign and Intaction if you can. Give us the resources we need to spread the gospel of bodily autonomy in more state legislatures. We are the only organization that does anti-circumcision lobbying in state capitals. See the link in the description below to get involved. The more support we get, the more states we can lobby. We've had some very generous guys that have already helped us out with the main campaign, and I want to thank them for that. We've even had some guys from Europe and Canada that are pitching in, all to help us. To wrap this up, I want you to know you're not alone. Those that promote circumcision through organizations, agencies, in the media, or by manipulating parents in the maternity room, they know that many guys won't complain or say anything out of embarrassment, shame, or just being overwhelmed with hopelessness. They don't want you to have access to the power of the government the way they do. They want you to believe you're outnumbered and alone. Don't fall for that, because you're not. By working together, I can help you to get the justice you seek by changing laws to protect male children's bodily autonomy and blocking laws that try to take it away. That's all for now. Until next time, my brothers, it's foreskin for the win.